You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Folks, Senator Cory Booker of New Jersey joins us right now. Senator Booker, how you doing?
I'm well. Thank you for having me, man.
Let's just talk about the bill that was announced today by the Congressional Black Caucus and other Democrats. Is this the most aggressive police reform bill that Democrats can put on the table?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't call it a police reform bill. A lot of people are rightfully suspect of police reforms because we've seen so many of them before. This is about real accountability. It's about making sure that in courts of law, civil and criminal courts, when police officers do bad things, that we can actually make sure that we can hold them for 1983 civil rights violations on the civil side and hold them in accordance to the criminal code on the criminal side. So that's number one. Number two is it's just going to outright ban things that has caused the death of African Americans and many Americans, like chokeholds, no-knock warrants, racial and religious profiling. And then finally, it's going to empower activists by making sure that from whether you're an activist leading nonviolent protests or an organization like the ACLU or NAACP or a state legislator, that you have transparency into police departments by mandating data collection on misconduct, use of force, and other critical information that's now not collected in any uniform way across the country. So I've seen lots of reforms, and we've seen them in Minneapolis, and still have these kind of awful deaths. It's now time talking about something that's more systematic in terms of real accountability, transparency, on the ability for people to take action against police officers who do wrong.
When people right now are very much obviously engaged in this, but there's only so much Congress can actually do because many of these issues deal with city contracts, union contracts. It deals with state Bill of Rights. And so it's not just the jurisdiction of Congress. You also have to have an intense lobbying effort in state capitals, county government, as well as city government to deal with law enforcement across the country.
Absolutely. And we know that this change is going to have to come at the federal level, state level, and local level. But let's not forget, when it comes to protecting the rights of Americans, whether they're LGBTQ Americans or Americans of religious minorities, we have seen the federal law get involved in everything from school desegregation to voting rights, which are, both of those are very local issues. But the federal government can get involved to protect people's civil rights and protect people's lives. So there is a role to play on the federal level. And I intend to continue to work with a lot of my colleagues who are also leading to lead the effort on the federal level to create real systems of accountability for our national policing.
One of the things that we have to contend with, the reality is Democrats control the House, then Republicans control the Senate. Let's say Democrats pass this in the House. Is there any chance of actually coming up in the Senate between now and November?
Well, if you told me a month ago, literally 4 weeks ago, was there any chance that a bill like this could have been written and have gotten as many co-sponsors in the Democratic Party, I would have said, I don't see how it's going to happen. But hundreds and hundreds of thousands, if not millions of Americans in all 50 states from the whole rainbow of ethnicities, religions, races, and ages protesting nonviolently out there across our country has made this moment possible. And so I believe that anything is possible because we live in a nation where still the power of the people is greater than the people in power. And that's why folks who are out there demanding and protesting and doing everything they can to wake up the comfortable and get more people off the sidelines of history into history to make history, it gives me a lot of hope about what can be possible over the coming months. And remember, we're 5 months away from the Senate being up, where Mitch McConnell will either stay in charge and in power, or he will be removed because we'll be electing new senators. And this could be a turning point, not just for police accountability, but for other critical civil rights legislation, environmental legislation, environmental justice legislation, healthcare, and more. There's so much coming in this tumultuous year of 2020 But the secret to the change is always going to be, as it has been for the suffrage movement, for the civil rights movement, for the labor rights movement, is the activism and engagement of citizenry. And that's why I have so much hope, because of what I'm seeing around the country today.
Got to play this for you. Over the weekend, one of your colleagues actually took to the streets. Here is Senator Mitt Romney.
Violence and brutality, and to make sure that people understand that Black Lives Matter.
There were folks on social media who were saying that, oh, look, that was a waste. I disagreed. What I said is, I appreciate seeing Senator Mitt Romney out in the protest saying Black Lives Matter. Now, I will judge him based upon what he does with policy. Just like there were people who've been critical because CBC members decided and other Democrats decided to have their kente on today, and people were sitting here making jokes about it. And I'm like, shut the hell up. Focus on the bill as opposed to wearing the kente. Speak to that in terms of, again, judging. Now, you take Senator Mitt Romney, you take all these corporations making statements. Now we appreciate the statement. Now let's see the work.
Look, Roland, first of all, about my colleague, we need to leave room for people to evolve.
Right.
Keep pathways to redemption. Because, Brother Roland, thank God you and I are not the same people we were 20 years ago. We are better. We are more involved and getting better, thank God. And so when I see the commissioner of the NFL, somebody I have not been happy with, but respond to African-American players and say those words, Black Lives Matter, and admit that he did things to suppress the protest of the athletes, that's an evolution. And I'm not going to condemn him for getting better. He's not where I want him to be, but he made some progress. We have seen we've seen the whole slogan Black Lives Matter. I remember we had people in the Democratic Party at high levels that kept saying all lives matter. And so this is not a movement that's going to be won until we realize that great movements are achieved when we call to the conscience of others and activate their empathy and their not just empathy, frankly, get them on the streets working with us.
Right.
So I have nothing but hope that more people will get woke, more folk will get woke, and more people will get into this fight, because what we need is change, is dramatic change. And this bill is a incredible step forward, but there is so much more needed to be done in a society that has decided explicitly, or worse, complicitly, decided that we are going to treat mental illness in this country with jail and prison and police and not health care.
Well,
go ahead.
And that was a point that I'm making. And again, that is, Senator Romney could have easily not gone out there.
Yeah.
He initially posted a photo on his Twitter feed of his father marching with folks in the civil rights movement. I think that was on Saturday. And a lot of people tweeted him and said, that was your daddy. What are you going to do? And the next day, he was out marching. The point I'm making to people is, appreciate that. But now that he's done that, now it's, okay, what are you going to do? Just like I see all these corporations. Same thing. Okay, Roger Goodell, you did a video, you apologize. Are y'all going to change that policy that you just put in the collective bargaining agreement that made it harder for athletes to protest? Are you going to allow them to kneel? Are you going to now change those things? All of these companies who are posting statements, Black Lives Matter. I said it on MSNBC. Do black employees matter? Where are your black corporate execs? Where are your black board members? What's your minority supplier development? See, now the moment somebody goes on the record, then we get to say, okay, we appreciate that. What you gonna do now? That's, to me, that's where we have to be now in terms of challenging folks, saying we appreciate that, but let's see what happens with this.
Listen, first of all, I know you're serious because you got no pocket square on today. And,
I got my Poor People's Campaign shirt on, represent my Reverend Dr. Barber.
I know you're coming hot today. So look, this is the challenge of me looking back at our history. You and I are young men. And you look suddenly at all the corporations that use Martin Luther King's imagery, and they've created a Disney version of him or a Santa Clausification.
Yeah, I call it a bobblehead.
Yes,
I call it a civil rights mascot.
Right, and right at the time of his assassination, the majority of Americans disapproved of him.
Black people.
Yes.
Whitney Young, Urban League, Roy Wilkins, NAACP, Carl Rowan, a number of black people were not happy with Dr. King when he got killed because of his stance on the Vietnam War. Yes,
and he was starting to talk a lot about a poor people's campaign and economic injustice and challenging what was then a corporate culture that was morphing into the perversion of a free market that we have right now, with unbelievable corporate consolidation to the detriment of entrepreneurialism and competition and more. So look, I'm just trying to say right now, there's still issues where we are too comfortable with injustice in this country. Mm-hmm. When we say that we're the land of the free, and 1 out of every 3 incarcerated women on the planet Earth is here in America, overwhelmingly they are survivors of trauma, of sexual assault, where 95% of the people we incarcerate are nonviolent, more than that actually, and are people that often need help, health care, and not harm and hurt or be put into environments that compound their injuries and put them back on the streets in worse shape, more economically disempowered, and often with those with mental health challenges often have had more trauma in their lives that further undermine their health. And so I'm just saying that we are not there yet in understanding the breadth and depth of the problem, and it's hard to get to solutions before we start really starting to have a conversation about what does a beloved society look like. We are a nation that has a untapped reservoir of love for one another that is not reflected in our policies. And that's why creative artists of activism have to continue to try to push to get people to confront those things that we've grown used to, but like a frog boiling in the water, that we are in fast moving towards utter peril if we don't address them. America right now has injustice, and King was right. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And our criminal justice system, what did Dostoevsky say? If you want to see the nature of civilization, go to visit the prisons and see what's happening. Well, our prisons contain the poor. Our prisons contain the mentally ill, the addicted, and overwhelmingly black and brown people. And we have to address this and much more. So today, I'm proud that we got a bill written in a very short period of time to do the things that for 50 years, members of the Congressional Black Caucus, back to its origins, were writing bills about police reform, police accountability, asking for things that would have made a difference and saved black lives. We now have a chance to get those things done. And a kicker, and you know this, there's another little tiny bill that was included in this bill. I say tiny more sarcastically, but it's the anti-lynching bill that has been tried to be passed for a century, that finally got passed through the House of Representatives with only 4 dissenters, so that means overwhelming Republican and Democratic support, has 99 senators ready to vote it out here in the United States Senate, but is being blocked right now by Rand Paul. So this is something that is, to me, astonishing, that we're still trying to, one of the greatest periods of domestic terrorism in American history, the period following Reconstruction, all the way up into the 1960s, where thousands upon thousands of blacks were lynched, were murdered, were gruesomely killed.
Right.
We've yet to make that a federal crime.
Senator Tim Scott posted on the Twitter feed that, look, all Democrats can do is just, in the House, pass the original bill without Emmett Till's name on it. But the other side of this here, Senator Tim Scott can demand Mitch McConnell put this on the floor. I mean, it's not like, they can ignore Rand Paul by just putting it on the floor for debate and for a vote, right?
Yes. I mean, there's some things that are larger than us that we should put our egos aside and just do it.
Yep.
Just get it. This is one of those things where it's not complicated. And by the way, history is going to look back, whatever thing people might want to write about Mitch McConnell, they would say he stepped up to make sure this got done. And talk about Donald Trump. You know he wants to talk about how he's done this and this and this for black people. I don't care. Let the man sign the bill and make it the law of the land. Everybody could take credit for doing what is right. But we have a century of agony. Our ancestors are looking down in pain at the shame of our inaction to get this done and get this across the line. There's no excuse. We should just get it done.
Last question. Absolute last question. All this discussion about defund the police. Senator Kamala Harris was on The View this morning, and Meghan McCain tried. So, I just learned about this. I don't really know it, but you would defund the police. I think it's a bad idea. Okay. You have been a city councilman. You've been a mayor. You're in the United States Senate. I keep trying to explain to people Congress can't defund police departments. When you hear the phrase defund police, what does that mean?
Well, I know what it means because I know the spirit behind it. But as a guy who's in politics and who's watching Donald Trump try to weaponize that phrase, like he tried to weaponize Green New Deal or Black Lives Matter, even weaponize Obamacare to the point now where you poll Obamacare, it's not that popular amongst Republicans. But if you poll the Affordable Care Act, it's very popular amongst Republicans.
Which is why I kept telling the Obama White House to stop saying Obamacare, because all you're doing is furthering the Republican poll-tested phrase. And they were like, but Obama does care. And I was like, okay, I'm just done. But you're absolutely right. When you say the Affordable Care Act, it polls very well, but Obamacare. But even the Obama White House was using Obamacare, saying we can flip it. I'm like, no, you can't flip what was meant to be a negative. But go right ahead.
Right. And so here we are now in another slogan contest. And when I want to get to the spirit and the substance behind those people who are calling in agony about the reality in America, that we have defunded public education, and we know dollars invested in education lower the need for police and prisons. In fact, every dollar you spend on education behind bars, helping people get their GEDs and the BAs and MAs in prison, save you $4 to $7 in recidivism, which means police and more prisons. We know the things to do to lower the taxpayer expenditures on police and prisons. We know the things that we could be doing, but we're not funding them. Drug treatment, job training, mental health care, support for children who are below the poverty line to get them above the poverty line. And that's the absurdity of where we are. We're about to have a false debate in America when we simply should say, what is the real things that keep communities safe? Because I remember sitting in one of my first meetings as a mayor, sitting with the FBI in Newark, New Jersey, when we were talking about gang interdiction. And I said, how do we solve this? And the head of the FBI at that point, I wrote about this in my book, looks at me and says, we don't solve these problems. Police, in other words, law enforcement, head of the FBI, we don't solve these problems. They're just dealing with the symptoms of the deeper problems. And so activists in the streets who are saying police don't solve the problem. In fact, I'm worried about the police killing me. Can't we start funding the things that even the police know actually solve the problems? We know kids who have trauma, and there are numbers of trauma. Poverty alone is an indicator of trauma, according to medical experts. Lead poisoning and toxic sites or give trauma to child bodies. We know that, and we live in a country where there's more than 3,000 jurisdictions where children have more than twice the blood lead levels of Flint, Michigan. And the number one indicator of if you're around a toxic site or not is the color of your skin. So this is an absurd argument. When I was a mayor and I had violent crime issues, I was trying to do everything I could to help my police get more guns off the streets. But my police themselves would tell me, these problems are starting because we're not doing enough for our children. We're not doing enough to deal with addiction. Across the street from me, Roland, I don't know if you've ever come. Why do you ever visit me, man? You just all talk. I don't know what kind of friend you are.
Where? Newark?
Yeah.
I've been in Newark.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I spoke in Newark a couple of months ago at the Symphony Hall for Mayor Ras Baraka. Where were you?
Well, damn, that's even worse.
Oh, see, come on.
You were in my city and you didn't even come visit me.
They ran posters. They put it all over the place.
You got my number, man. Because I know you use my digits.
2,000 other black people saw me there. And they cheered.
I would have been up. I would have lit a candle, man. I would have put the flashlight on my cell phone and waved it around.
All right, so hold up. So let's just do this here. Fine, let's do this here, okay? I own this show. So let's do a town hall between now and November in Newark, and we'll live stream it on Roland Martin Unfiltered.
No, Roland Martin. I want to get you out of your comfort zone.
Fine.
I want to do a walk around my neighborhood.
Dude, I got portable equipment. We can live stream that.
So I want to go to Integrity House.
Okay.
Across the street, sit with fellas who were arrested dozens of times, costing us millions of dollars before they got the drug treatment they need. Let's go sit in the barber shop. You and I both might need a little help, touch up there.
I'm good. I got way more hair than you.
And talk to fellas about what's really happening.
Oh, but I see you understand. We can go portable. We got portable. We can do all that. Okay. And we can still live stream it. So you tell me when, and we'll have my cameras there.
All right. See, because I think what I would love for your viewers to see, and most of your viewers probably know this already because they live it or they know it intrinsically, is that we waste so much money in society. Think about the drug crimes. At Stanford and Yale, I'm sorry, I saw lots of drug use. Nobody got criminal charges. People doing the same thing in communities of color where you're over-policed, then as soon as you get an 18-year-old now with a criminal conviction for doing things that 2 of the last 3 presidents admitted to doing, now that kid can't get a job, can't get a Pell Grant, can't get a business license, can't get a loan from the bank. And so this is the shame of our society, is by over-policing, over-criminalizing, over-incarcerating, we're actually creating the conditions for more violence and more challenge. And so as a mayor, I need to protect my community. The number one polling thing when I ran for mayor in 2002, 2006, 2010 was wanting more protection. Because in many ways, black communities have concerns about gun violence and more.
So how does that jive though with defund police? Are you saying that the problem with this whole conversation is that people are stuck on the phrase itself and really not what they're focused on? Because this is what I'm hearing. People are not saying get rid of the police departments. What they're saying is cities are spending an inordinate amount of money on policing, and they're completely ignoring the mental health problems. So when cops encounter people with mental health illness, they end up being dead because cops don't know how to deal with that. What they're saying is, to one of my guests, Maj Toure, he was like, you need conflict resolution. You need to be teaching police officers that pulling the gun is not your first, second, and third option. So when I hear defund the police, they're saying study your budget and stop just saying, oh, we're just going to throw more money at the cops, because that's essentially saying the same as build more jails, throw more people in, and that solves the problem.
And see, that is the race to the bottom, when you have people standing up and saying, I'm going to put 1 million more cops on America's streets that are persecuting a drug war. I remember having a good conversation with people who study policing and saying, look, communities of color often have too much of the policing that they don't need, and not enough policing of the ones of the type they want. And ultimately what you're saying there, Roland, which is true, which is if we started to invest in the ways our communities really deeply want to see for their children, for their schools, for their job opportunities, and more, ultimately the demands in communities of color for more safety and security protections would be going down, as would those budgets from mayors who understand that their crime rates are going down for the right reasons. All right.
Senator Cory Booker, we appreciate it. Let me know when we want to do this thing, man. We'll make it happen.
All right. Don't sneak up in my neighborhood anymore without letting me know.
Yeah, okay. All right. Glad you came out, hung out my hood for a little bit.
All right.
I appreciate it. Thanks a bunch.
Thank you, man. Thank you so much.
All right, folks. Back to that Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. All right, folks. We want to thank the folks Ceek.com, Ceek.com for partnering with us. This is Mary Spio is the creator, the innovator, the founder of this company. She, of course, designed these 4D 360-degree headphones that are absolutely amazing. We've got a partnership with them, folks. If you purchase these headphones, you can use the promo code RMVIP2020, RMVIP2020, and simply go to Ceek.com. That's Ceek.com. Be sure to check it out. We thank them for partnering with us.